we're all trying to answer one question: what are we doing here on Earth? And what's this whole thing about?
You're listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. This is the podcast where I talk to successful women in entertainment and hear their stories. Today I spoke with Prarthana Joshi, or PJ. PJ is from India, but has been living in the U.S. for the last 7 or 8 years, first as a film student and then as a production worker, working in the independent film arena as primarily a production designer, assistant director, and producer. She has a long list of credits on IMDb, many of them award-winning, but apparently none of them enough for the U.S. government to grant her a green card for artistic contribution. Her green card application was just denied. So despite having an artist visa for the last 7 years, she is now in the position of having to pack up her entire life and leave for India, not knowing when or if she will be able to return to the industry and the city she loves. I spoke to her last week when she was a week away from getting on a plane and in the middle of sorting out all of her personal business. This is an immigration story, an artist story, and the story of what might face a woman returning to India who has already broken all of the expectations she was meant to fulfill. You can find us at theother50%.com for added features, photos, show notes, and the merchandise. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbay, and now on Spotify and iHeartRadio and YouTube. Okay, here's my conversation with PJ. Have a listen. I usually just say, what do you do? And you've worked in every single department.
Yes.
But so why don't you tell me what is your focus in this business?
It's very interesting. I love story and design. Those are my two things that are dear to me. And I've always found it kind of weird that you have to have a title, in life. Because when you look back a long time ago, a really long time ago, these occupations did not exist.
Right.
These are occupations created by people to sort of
Put you in a box.
Yeah, put you in a box and say that, if you do this, you are not good enough to do that. Mm-hmm. And I just always felt like that's kind of claustrophobic to always think of yourself as just only one thing, and it limits you, it limits exploring to all the different avenues that you can actually explore. And there's no really any reason other than the fact that you probably take forever to really succeed, monetarily at least. But that is, if I work as a production designer or a producer or, any other capacity, I think it's more creatively satisfying for me than having to choose one thing and stick to that. Because they're so distinct and have their own sort of pleasure of doing those things.
So how about we call you an artist?
Okay. I'll like that. I'll take
Deal.
that.
But as an artist, you've worked as a producer and a director and a writer and a production designer and an AD and an editor and an art department and the camera department and the sound department.
So the camera and sound is super, super early on. I used to edit a bit because when you start off, you really want to know the craft in all its aspects. And I think if you want to be a director or even a producer, I feel you really need to know what happens in every field, department.
You need to know all the parts.
Yes, all the departments. And I think that makes you stronger. And actually, when somebody says that, hey, we want so-and-so things, you know exactly what they're talking about because you've actually, done that. Of course, when you're in film school, you're lifting all the lights and doing everything, lifting furniture and
you're doing everything.
Yeah, you're doing everything. But past that, I think I started streamlining and focusing on production design and producing. Mm-hmm. And I still want to direct, but I hope I will get to that point at some point. Because right now, being on set, being able to do production design and actually or produce helps me to learn a lot being on set and observe people. Yeah. It's sort of working, but at the same time, being able to shadow directors.
Have you done mostly film or television?
So mostly film, a lot of indie stuff. Mm-hmm. And television, I just produced a pilot that we're still very, very early on. We just finished doing it, which is, I'm super, super proud of that project. And that's kind of my first intro to the television world. I know nothing about that I've done web series, but not like television. So we're still far away. We just did a spec pilot, so we'll see where that takes us.
Can you tell us what it's called?
It's called Vicarious, and we have Jeffrey Brown and Scott Spicer. They're the creators of the show, and they're also the actors in it. And it's their passion project. There's one who is a married guy with kids, and the other one who is a single guy, and they both live through each other's lives, like vicariously, basically, and it's called Vicarious.
The grass is always greener on the other
Yeah,
side.
exactly, and it's really sweet. And I mean, I just like enjoyed working with these guys here, like Mandy Fabian. She's our director in this, and this was an amazing experience for me to actually like, work with these guys and see how hard they work and see how passionate they are, because they have like years of television and like film and all of that experience. So for me to just like work with them was like, oh my God, this is awesome,
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and then Mandy, I actually met her through Women in Film, and she was actually assigned to me as my mentor.
Oh, great.
And she kind of pulled me on to this project, and I was like, whoa, that's really, you want me to do this?
That's really good mentoring.
Yeah,
Yeah, good job.
but she's amazing, and she got me onto this, and now we've been working for a while, and hoping that this gets made, and if it does, yay.
Fantastic. Yeah. Okay, now let's talk about your start. You grew up in India.
Yes. So this is interesting. So I grew up in India, and I always loved drawing and stuff. So like when you grew up in a middle class family, like if you were good at drawing, you either go and take engineering and architecture. So
Of course.
that was like,
Not to be a stereotype or anything.
That's what you do. So I ended up obviously picking architecture because I felt like, okay, that's something maybe I could do. But nobody ever the filmmaking was not into discussion in like any form.
Right, but there's tons of filmmaking in
Yeah,
India.
it is, but I think now, like I have my cousins and, younger cousins and neighbors' kids who are interested in filmmaking, and I see them actually do that from early on. Whereas like when I was like studying or trying to, that wasn't an option.
Right, you're going to be a doctor or an engineer.
Yeah, like that was not something like women from good like households do. That's like,
It's not what a proper lady does.
That's like, well, what? Like you're gonna ruin your life, or something like that. So I did
You'll
architecture.
never get married that way.
That's probably the big thing. And I kind of like ended up finishing my architecture. I was actually pretty good at it. But towards the end of fifth year, when I had my internship and I worked in a company, I realized that this was a very isolating job. And I just couldn't deal with the isolation. And designing is fun, but it's you sitting in front of a computer and once in a while visiting, a site and checking like whether the construction is happening properly was not glamorous in any way. Not in like glamour as in like, it's just not, there's no human touch to it. And what I realized is like what fascinated to me about architecture was that the stories the buildings told,
Oh, interesting.
Like if you go to like, I loved going to historic places or museums or like even like old like streets and stuff. Like, why do you love them so much? Because so many things happened there. You know? And I think that's like the beauty and charm of the places. So, and I kind of realized that much later, like why I liked architecture. And then my thesis for my architecture was basically Museum of Indian Cinema. And that sort of I just went down the rabbit hole.
Never to come back out.
Never to come back. It was very hard on my family, obviously.
They go, no, we're
It's
losing
like,
her.
well, you just graduated. Like, you have like 3 job offers for you. And like, why do you not want to continue architecture anymore? And I was like, because I think I need to do this. And I think I realized
So you just didn't take a job when you were finished?
No, I didn't. And I started working as an assistant director. I did a feature which was actually like called Vihir, and it's translated as The Well, with the director Umesh Kulkarni. And he's like, his films always are screened all over the festivals and all over the world. This particular one screened at Berlin International Film Festival, got like a standing ovation or something with like the crew, and I think the cast had flown there or something. But like that was my first experience without knowing anything, just being thrown and being on a set as an assistant director. And because you have like, if you have a certain education background, then I think even if it's a creative background, then you're actually like capable of finding your way, And I tried to do that, and I realized that, well, I really need to know more. This is, not enough. And I was still working. I directed my first short. Then I directed a documentary that was like a fellowship for National Film Archives of India. It was like a research documentary on a film company called Prabhat Film Company, which was started in 1929. It ended up being bankrupt in like 1950s, mid-50s. And so I had this documentary, and I did all this research, and I'd made that, so it was all of like, me trying to self-teach.
Yeah, just figuring it out.
Just figuring it out. And like editing and doing this and that, and like helping other directors, assist them. So, and then finally I was like, oh, well, I need to learn and have a proper education so that I can be better at my craft.
Yeah.
And that's when I came to US to do my master's in
Where?
filmmaking in New York Film Academy in LA. And it's kind of like, since then I've been here in US. It was 2010 December that I got here. And just kind of been doing everything I can. I do different things depending on the like there are some people who would like have always worked with me as a production designer, and there's some people who have always worked with me as a producer. So like they look at me as that person.
That's how they see you.
Yeah. So it's weird. Like, I don't think I've ever done a crossover. Like, I don't think like people who've always hired me as a production designer will never probably hire me as a producer. And the people who have hired me as a producer would never hire me as a production designer because they just don't.
They just can't.
They just
make
can't
that leap.
Yeah.
I bet your architecture background is really helpful being a production designer.
Yes, it is. It is, and sometimes I feel like, oh, I wish I had more like hands-on construction experience because I do lack the construction part of it because I never had to like actually physically hammer anything or like, what
That's
kind
what your
of
construction crew is for.
Yeah. But like it's as everything you learn slowly by doing it. So kind of getting there.
Now, can you describe, because I've heard it's very different how we make movies here as opposed to how they make movies in India. Can you kind of put your finger on what those differences are?
The differences are like, I think the biggest difference is like how both the industries operate. And it's that in US, if you see, or Hollywood per se, like that everybody has a person, like an agent, like or a manager. Like you have to go through agents, managers, or like there's like a process to everything. Whereas I feel like in India, it's a smaller industry, even though it's a big industry in terms of like how much money it makes and how big of an audience they have. But I still feel like it's limited in terms, or smaller in terms of the people who make stuff.
Are there fewer gatekeepers?
Yes. But that kind of makes it harder sometimes. Like you have to know somebody to get in. And I guess it's same true in US as well. But there's so much indie work in US. And I think what happens here is like, when you you write a script here, there are all these different competitions. You can like go and send it to managers to see if they're interested. Like there's so many different routes to go to, right? Whereas in India, like if you have a script, who are you gonna send it to? Like there are no managers or agents. I think now there are more people, and it's becoming more and more westernized. A lot of people like me who have come here, studied here, have gone back and have like kind of changed the way the process works there. It's
How does that go over? If someone has come and trained in America and then goes back and says, "Okay, now let me tell you how to do this." Like, how is that received?
I don't know. Like I haven't like worked there since I got here. So, but I do have a lot of friends now who have made that transition of working here and then going back in India and working there. I think what happens is like there is a lot more respect for people who are like, okay, well, like if you want us to make anything better, we can. Like there isn't like, oh, like I don't care who you are. Like that doesn't happen. I think people do respect the education and experience. I've personally experienced that a lot. Like when I go back, and my friends who are working in the industry there will always like exchange like, oh, like how do you guys do this or that, or like very specific things. I think like in India, a lot of like actors. Like Priyanka Chopra, who's now in Hollywood, like she always did all her stunts. Like she still does a lot of her stunts even here.
Wow.
So like the lot of things, like especially like labor laws are not as strict as in US. That I wish could be better in India. Like the respect for an even respect for all the cast and crew members. Because I remember,
and we work people pretty hard here.
Yes. Yeah, and it's like, I remember working for 48 hours one time.
God.
It was insane.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, and I think yes, the film is important for the director, and they can just like totally, like...
It's not
make
that
people...
important.
Exactly. So
Wait, it was here you worked for 48 hours?
No,
or
in India.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah, it's insane. And there is like, like meal hours, like this like 6 hour, you have to have your first meal.
Yeah.
And then, like all of those rules are actually like, sometimes they're very painful. Like when you produce, you're like, oh my God, we have to have a meal right now. Or like,
feed the people.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I've also been a crew, and I know how difficult it is to work without having those restrictions.
Yeah, you get diminishing returns if no one has slept or eaten.
Exactly, and I think that's something that I would really wish for India to change. And another thing that I've noticed is like the team players, like the main team leaders, will have a different food lunch. And like everybody else, like they're like things that people call spot boys or like lightmen, and they will have different lunches.
There's a hierarchy in the
There's
food.
a huge hierarchy, and I've seen that in the lamest places food, and I just like, I've always found it ridiculous. Like, which table do you can sit on? Like, you cannot sit with, if all the assistants can only sit together, and you can't really sit with the actors. And it was just kind of like, what? Like, they're all people, everybody's a person at the end of the day, you know?
Yeah, what are we doing?
Yeah, and I have not experienced that here, I mean, yes, some of the actors will get food in their trailers and stuff, and the ADs will help them, but I think that's only because they need to get makeup on, or like they're doing something. It's not, or they'll have their own personal assistants get them stuff.
Or they're super famous and people get weird.
Yeah. So those are different things, but this was like something else, like again, like I have to say that I've not worked there for a while. Like I've not worked there for 7 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just hoping that that's changed, But those are the things that I like passionately, like really bother me, that that's definitely, I wish that could change.
Yeah. So let's talk about kind of what you're experiencing now. So you've been here for 8 years on an artist visa.
Yes.
And then you applied for your green card.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
So my green card, since I was in an artist visa, I was qualified, I think that's the right word to use, to apply for a green card, for an artist green card. And then basically recently I just got rejected for it. And the government basically said that you're not qualified as an artist. And there are 10 categories that you need to meet. One of them is publication. Another is like awards. And the third one is screening, like where has your work been shown? And those are the 3 categories that we were going for. Because screened work, yes, like I have films that I've worked on.
Yeah.
I've worked on features and, so...
Seems like that should count.
Yeah, like that should count. Like if you have distribution for the films that you worked on as a production designer or assistant art director or assistant to a director, and if all of those have worldwide distribution, and then you rejected in that category, then it's like, well, I'm not sure what you want, like,
Yeah, like are they only taking the director?
So I don't know, like what, why this particular category did not they didn't accept it. Another one was like, I have another film actually. My short film got screened in an Indian national channel. And it was screened everywhere, and you could also stream it at the same time online. So it was NDTV Imagine or something. And that's, there as well. So I was like, well, like, my projects did screen all these different places.
And they don't tell you why it was rejected?
They just say that it didn't meet this category, and your stuff has not been screened, on important platforms or something like that.
Like something so vague that
Yeah,
how can
it's
you
kind of vague, and I
define
was
that?
like, well, wait, what does that mean?
What's important?
And then the
To who?
awards was a different thing. Like they were saying that you have personally not received an award of any high caliber, which was like, well, my films that I worked on have, and I'm not saying as an assistant, but I've worked on as a producer or a production designer, or like, and those have been screened and officially selected for competitions or nominated or actually gotten awards. But a producer or an AD never really gets an award,
Yeah.
There are very few awards for producer. Like, oh, you get a Best Producer award? Like, what
Well,
award
Best
is
Picture.
that? Best Picture.
You get the Best Picture
Yeah,
Oscar.
right. But the Best Pictures are there, a part of the
Yeah.
So they're saying that, oh, your film won an award, you didn't win an award.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Yeah, so it's like how so it's like the verdict, if I should call it,
Let's call it preliminary decision.
yeah, was very interesting, and we couldn't really make we couldn't understand what
couldn't make
really,
sense of it.
yeah. So I mean, I'm to reapply for my artist visa. So what they do is, like, once you get the decision, they basically say you have 33 days to contest it, or this decision will remain final, which means that I have to leave the country because I'm not on status anymore. So, so I have to leave the country and come back, hopefully with another visa, if they, decide that I'm an artist or not.
So do you contest it, or do you go out and try again, start over?
So I have to go back and basically reapply for my artist visa, which I had an artist visa, right? So if the government,
So that shouldn't be so hard.
right, if the government did approve me and said that, oh yes, you're an artist, and it's like extraordinary capacity or whatever, that's like the thing, and you have to prove and give them proofs of all the projects you've worked on. So technically, if you already said that I was an artist, then you should tell me that I'm still an artist. Like, I didn't give up.
Yeah, they took it back.
Yeah, like, how do you decide that you're not an artist anymore?
We had an administration change between when you started and then when you applied.
And
Do you think that has something to do with it?
I don't know. I think it's been getting more and more difficult since I got here. I have seen lots of friends go through this, like, all from different countries. I think Spanish people have also had it really difficult.
Yeah.
And I think it's also to do with ethnicities and the number of people applying to be here. And I'm assuming there are a lot of Indian people applying for the green card currently. So they're probably, like, making sure to deny as many as they can.
Yeah.
And there is obviously a very ambiguous criteria when you're talking about an artist. It's very difficult to prove an artist.
It's subjective.
It's very subjective. Like, and how do you, like, weigh, the caliber of a person on paper? I'm
Is
not
there any interview that goes with this?
The interview is only once you're accepted for the interview, which they recently started. The interview wasn't there until, like, actually when I applied, there was no interview. And I applied a year and a half ago, and then there was a change in administration, and I think my application just took forever to even get a reply.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, normally, like, people would get, one of my friends had applied like I think like 2 months prior to what I had applied, and he took 6 months to get a reply, whereas I took a year and a half. So that's how much changed. And I think there was definitely probably a panic amongst people due to the new administration that led to a lot more applications. I would assume that, which made them make their policy stricter.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very difficult to, like, know anything, or, you were just, like, speculating, or what must be happening, because
We're just making it up.
yeah, like, I'm just like, there's nothing written down anywhere. There's nothing like, oh, this is what's happening and this is the changes we've done, or there's probably numbers that could be studied somewhere, online, but it's really difficult to know, like, okay, we are only allowing so many visas this year for this category for this country. If that was transparent enough, then I think people could actually, like, know what to do.
Yeah.
And what I kind of felt like bad about is that, like, I've already been here like 7.5 years. It's
You live here.
Yeah, I mean, this is home for me. And what happens is, like, you're expecting to, like, do other jobs. Like there are a lot of other people dependent on me. It's not like, oh, I can just leave, because I'm still working on all these projects. People who have hired me now have to find somebody else.
Right.
And because this is such an artistic field, like you can't just randomly hire a different person mid-project, right?
Especially if you're production designing.
Yeah, like in all different capacities. It's just like it's not the most easiest thing to do.
No. Can someone sponsor you?
Yeah. The sponsor visa is like, for artists, you can't really go the sponsor route, the H1 route, because you can only work for one company.
So working freelance, it doesn't work.
No. So like,
You
if
need a studio to sponsor you and then put you on a bunch of shows.
And then I can't work on any other studio projects. It's like being in a contract with them. And again, I think what they have done is like, any company can't hire anyone who is not from America or is not American. They really have to prove that they can't hire anybody or find anybody as good as the person they're trying to hire. And I get it, like, like it's something that America maybe needs to do and promote their own people. I totally get it. I'm not gonna like say that, but where I come from is like, I'm trying to do it the right way.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to cheat.
You're doing what you're supposed to.
Yeah, I'm not trying to cheat. I'm not trying to like, do anything incorrectly. I pay my bills, I pay my taxes.
Yeah. So how much is this news disrupting your life and changing all your plans?
A lot. So right now, like, just not just me, but everybody who's like within immediate circle of mine, right? Mm-hmm. So I also worked at New York Film Academy as a production coordinator, and like I greenlight student films. So what happens is like they don't even have enough time to get somebody, train that person, and then that person can take over, right? Because that's it. Like I have to be done.
Yeah, you have a hard out.
Yeah, I have a hard out. And with my friends who have hired me or had hired me have the same problem. I mean, like, I can still communicate with them, and I have to sell my car. I have to sell my car. I have to
have a cell phone contract.
Yes, like this. It's so every single thing, And I was like, well, if I come back, then I have to have a new cell phone number, and I have to tell everybody about it. Then my bank account. What do I do with my bank account?
Yeah.
What do I do with like just my furniture? Like every little thing. Like there are things that you're not emotionally attached to that you can like let go. But then I have my Mac computer that I edit on and work on, and like there's so many things that I can ship with me. Like I'm not allowed more just 2 bags. I'm not allowed more luggage.
You can't move your whole house.
I can't move, and I
take your computer.
Right, and it's like okay,
you can buy more clothes.
I need
take your
this,
computer,
and I don't really. But I think the thing about this is like disrupting everybody else around me too.
Yeah.
Like I can be emotionally strong and be like, okay, I gotta do this. But then now I'm like trying to like close accounts in a way,
Well, the ripple effect of all the other people whose lives it's affecting.
Yeah, like I have like work is one of the things. My roommate now has to like also vacate the premise because she doesn't know if she can find another roommate in the given time, right? So all of that is just like overwhelming for everybody. And I have my friends who are helping me move all my stuff in their garage. And then I have to talk to them and be like, okay, if I don't come back, this is what you ship me. And all the rest of the stuff, you need to sell this.
Oh my gosh.
So that's like now on them, you know. And then I have other friends who are taking my fridge, but they're going to come and pick up the fridge. So it's like everything is a thing, So
it's a lot because you don't know if or when you're coming back.
Yeah. And then it's better to have less things to worry about and then like be like, oh my God, I don't even know if I come back as a tourist to just like sell my stuff.
Yeah.
Or, So that's kind of like, I mean, the car was a big thing. I love my car so much. I know it's not a living person.
We are attached to our cars in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the hardest thing to do is like get rid of my car. It's like, no, but I can't.
Can't you loan it to someone?
Yeah, I don't know because it's like I'm still paying off the loan. So it's like nobody else can sell it but me.
Yeah.
So that's something that I have to like.
What a mess.
It's going to be really sad to part with that.
What is kind of your internal practice or process kind of to keep yourself in a good headspace and not just spiral out on the stress?
So the first 2 days I was miserable.
Yeah.
When I found out because I was just overwhelmed oh my God, this is a lot of stuff.
It's a shock.
Yeah. First of all, I was like in denial. I think I'm still in denial quite a bit because this doesn't seem like,
Like you'll believe it when you're on the airplane.
Yeah, I think I'm going to believe it when I'm in India and it's been a couple of days and I have nothing to do and I've met all my relatives. And I'm like, now what I do? I think that's when it'll hurt me. But
And you have places to stay there, right?
yeah, I'm just like staying with my parents at the moment, and then I'll see what happens next. I mean, if I get my visa, then I have to see how to come back and start all over again. Find a place to stay, buy another car, get a new phone, get a new bank account.
Tell everybody that you're back.
Yes, tell everybody. Yeah. So all of that, right now, it's like the way I am dealing with is like there was some point I really needed a sabbatical, and I have thought about like taking a break from all the crazy work that I have, and I've wanted to go and just have time for myself.
And you didn't do it, did you?
And I didn't do that.
God did it for you.
Yeah. So this is like a forced sabbatical,
Yeah.
which I really needed. And I think that's kind of like thinking it that way is helping me a lot. Like, because not feeling like, well, I'm going to come back. I don't know if I'm going to come back immediately or I'm going to come back in a year or two or whatever. But I know I'll come back somehow. Like, I feel that it doesn't feel like, oh, it's over. But, like when you're like in a really bad relationship and then you really, it like goes to a point where, okay, this is it. Like, it just, it's too bad and just everything goes so bad.
I know it well.
That it has to be ended.
Yeah.
And obviously this is not a relationship with like US or anything. It's more about like me and my decision how to live my life, right? So this, I'm just taking it as like, okay, this is a break for me to like reevaluate what I want to do and how I want to do it and what were the things that were working and what were the things that were not working, and sort of reevaluate that. And when I come back, I think I'll have a better approach to what I was doing,
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah.
You just go and think about what you have done.
Yeah, I mean, there is, and I think I have a very smart brain that really protects me, and so it just really compartmentalizes everything for me. So it's just, even if I want to feel emotional, I won't, because it just like puts everything in corner, and I was like, nope, I don't have to deal with this right now. All I have to do with all these list of things that I need to do.
Right now you have so much business to take care
like,
of.
I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to meet this person, meet that person.
It's going to be that long plane ride.
So, so I have so many like things to do that like feeling bad is not my priority right now. So
it's not your priority.
Yeah.
That's funny. Now, tell me, why do you want to live here?
That's a great question, because I've asked that question multiple times. This is like, I think when I came to US, I did not know a single soul. And what happened to me is like, I suddenly, like there was thrown open to this world with there were no rules and regulations anymore. Like I was on my own. I could do whatever I wanted to do, which actually made me understand who I was as a person. Because I could literally do anything, right? And
that can be paralyzing sometimes.
Yes.
Because how do you choose?
Yeah, right. And I think like, and I have gone through a journey and discovering a lot of things that really worked for me as a person. Like I was at a point in my life where I couldn't stand my company, I just like hated being by myself. To now I actually do enjoy being alone, and I can have a good time with myself, and I don't feel like, oh my God, like what do I do now if I'm by myself, So I think like there was a lot of like trying to appreciate myself of who I am, and even like for that matter knowing who I am, like kind of happened here. And I kind of like, there were a lot of people like that I have listened to on TV, and like, Jon Stewart is like a big inspiring personality in my life, like question everything and sort of try to like really evaluate things in your life. And I mean, of course he does very politically, but I think that idea of not accepting everything just because it is, kind of, that's what I learned here, And I don't think I would have learned that in India, because what happens is like when you are in a place that's so familiar to you, you take everything for granted.
Yeah.
And I think when you're away from that place, and you're thrown open to a world that is completely new, I think you start really understanding little things and knowing what means what to you and what doesn't. And there are a lot of things I miss about India. I think most importantly, I miss family. But other than that, like everything else, it's here, you know?
Yeah.
And I visit my family. I'm very close to my parents and my brother. We talk almost every day. So, and it's difficult. It's very difficult. And I've always gone, you know, like, oh my God, like, how do I not see them for a whole year and see them, like, or a couple of years? It's difficult. And I don't have an answer to that. Like, in ideal world, I would like to, like, work in India and in US, you know, and then, like, be able to stay here and stay there whenever I want. Because I think it's, as the whole world is becoming smaller and smaller now, I think, you know, I just feel like why shouldn't it should be possible.
We'd
right?
like to be free.
Right? Like, why can't I live both places?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like...
Why not?
Yeah. So why do I have to make a choice? You know, that's kind of
Right.
like what I feel like. It's like, I have a lot of people told me, like, oh, maybe you'll have a better life, like, in India. And I was like, I didn't choose that.
Right.
Like, I want to choose what I want to choose.
You want to have agency over your life and what you do.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of where it comes down to is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I live, but it should be what I want to do.
Right.
And I still think about it. I still question everything. But yeah, I'm getting there slowly.
But it's clear that you have become a citizen of the world.
Yeah, I think I don't, you know, I think it's everything is about paperwork, but regardless, like you can...
It seems ridiculous some government
Yeah.
can have control over your life and where you live.
It really does. Like your mind doesn't have, your mind is basically boundless, right? Mm-hmm. You could think and be anywhere. So that's something that nobody can take away from you. Like that's something that's like beautiful about mind and thoughts. It's like nobody can take that away from you. So
Now tell me what kind of stories do you want to tell through this craft?
I think when I think about the stories that I would like to direct or write or work on are basically stories that actually help me understand life a little bit better, right? I think at the end of the day, none of us really know what's going on.
Isn't that the truth? No one really knows anything.
Yeah. So I think it doesn't matter what genre it is. It doesn't matter what style it is. I think it's in the end of the day, if it's getting a little bit closer to making you figure out what you're doing here, you know. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of my editing teacher actually talked to us the first day of classes. Like, we're all trying to answer one question: what are we doing here on Earth, you know? And what's this whole thing about? And I think that's kind of underlining for, you know, all the movies that we love so much are kind of somehow trying to talk about that. Like, it's a very subliminal message, or like, but I think those things are what attract me to stories.
Those are the ones that stick with you.
Yes,
You wake up a week later like, oh.
Yeah, you know. For example, like, I just thought about this. If you build it, he will come. Field of Dreams, right? It's so beautiful. The whole movie, it's so simple and everything about it, but it's so profound in its own way, right? And I think, like, I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do that. You know, they're like...
Right. It looks simple.
It looks so simple. Oh my God. It's like, oh, that sounds so easy and simple and straightforward. But I think that's simplicity is the most difficult thing to achieve. But yeah, like, hopefully I can, you know, because I think that's the part of being an artist, is wanting to explore. If you're not doing that, then you're not really trying to do or trying to be honest to the art, right? So I think it's being honest also, like, to yourself. And I think I have made a lot of mistakes where I've, like, worked on projects and been like, oh my God, why did I work on this? Like, I don't want to be ever associated with this project.
I think everyone has those.
Right? Yeah, exactly. But I feel like now I'm at a point where even if I'm broke, I'm not working, I want to work on the projects that I really care about.
Yeah.
And it can be then in a different capacity. It doesn't always have to be, like, you have to be a producer or you have to be, you know, like, on one of the team leading positions. So it could be anything. As long as, like, I like the project, I want to be part of it. And I think that's how my mind's just, like, I've changed my attitude towards work more recently. That really say yes to the projects and really, like, because I think it's been also difficult to say no at times.
Well, for sure, if you never know where your next job is coming from.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of been my biggest problem is, like, it's very difficult to say no. So it's like, I can't say no. And I was like, now I'm like, no, I can say no.
You can, because something better will come up.
Yeah.
Clear that space.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you make of the state of women right now in the culture?
Like, it's interesting that there are a lot of these rallies and a lot of like online Facebook account, like groups and stuff that women hiring women, and there's a lot of support, and which is amazing. I would like to actually see it. Like, there are Benedict Cumberbatch, actually, this Hollywood Reporter article talked about he's not going to work in a movie unless the women, the actresses paid equally. And I think that's a big deal. Like, that there are people who are like taking these actions and steps. And personally, like, I'll believe it when I see it. And I'm not pessimistic in any way. I'm definitely optimistic. But what I've experienced is on a set, is like, you can't be average if you're a woman on set. You have to be better than average. Yeah. You have to be better than, like average, absolutely. Otherwise, nobody's going to hire you. And that's with like all the women that are amazing.
They are incredible.
Yeah, they're incredible, but they have to be that.
They've had to be better.
Otherwise, nobody's going to hire you. Yeah. And I think that's I don't know, like, what to make of it. Like, sometimes I feel like that's a lot of pressure on women to really work really, really hard and to be the best at what they do and not just accept any mediocrity in any way. Because if you flake a little bit, there's going to be somebody taking over, And I think that's, like, really harsh, actually. And another thing that I've experienced on set is, like, every time I walk in a new set, like, also I'm Indian and also have a thick accent, and I'm short, so, like, I have seen people be like, who is she? Like, why is she here? And then after a few days, they'll be friendly to me, and, okay, she's legit, like, I think we can work.
Do you have to prove it every time?
Yeah, so I feel like it's exhausting to have to prove yourself every time, like, and not to just be given a fair shot to begin with.
Right. You're here, let's give you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, like, there's a reason probably I got hired. I'm not just hired because I know somebody. Like, right. Come on. Like, and I think that's kind of, I honestly feel that's probably like most women feel that way. And I think that should change. And I know a lot of people that are like right now making indie films that who are producing like new work right now, and they're all talking about, no, we want to hire 50% women, which is like, the fact that people are making that conscious choice is a big deal.
Yeah, for real.
It's amazing that that's happening, but I think, and like when you talk about India and US, and I think this should, like, I feel like we're far away in India regarding this. It's still difficult for people to accept that women can actually put like their career first. We're not even there yet. Like, that's what I think.
What do you think it would be like for you to go back there and live for however long you're going to live there? Because you've kind of broken the mold.
Yeah. It's, there is a lot of like, what will people say? If I translate it in India, it's like, log kya kahenge? That's like a term, like a phrase people use all the time. And it's pretty real. I kind of felt I was so far away from all of that. I think right now what's happening to me is more than what is going to happen. I have this already inbuilt idea of, oh my God, I'm going to face this and this and this and this,
Yeah, because you're not living up to expectations.
Yeah.
Or you've made the expectation shift so dramatically.
Right. I'm a 32-year-old single woman. That's probably going to be scary for everybody there, that there has to be something wrong with me.
Yeah, how are you preparing yourself for that?
I don't know. I'm not going to change myself. I'm not going to be apologetic,
Yeah.
And I think I can deal with it. I'm just a little too worried for my parents to deal with it. I feel like I don't care. At this point, I'm fine being who I am.
You're like, who cares what people say?
Yeah, I am at that point in my life. But whereas I don't know if my parents are, or if my family, extended family is,
What do they think of what you're doing apart from what other people say?
I think now they are super supportive. Like, for filming, like, filmmaking is not anymore something like disagreeable, at least to them, because they now see how much hard work it goes into it. They have seen like how professional it is. It's not, it's not like people are on drugs or something like that. It's actually a legitimate business.
Yeah.
And it has legitimate work hours and like all of that. So even though it's, different schedules.
It is a career.
Yeah, it is a career. And you can definitely make something out of it. So I think that part, they're very supportive, for sure. Absolutely. And they will always like try to introduce me to anybody they encounter who are filmmakers or have anything to do with filmmaking. So, which is like, it's amazing to have that. It's just, I think lifestyle choices are different. Like, I think I've become a certain person with, I have my own mind now. Like, so
Look
scary.
out.
Yeah, scary for a, woman to have, I guess. So that's kind of like what I'm worried. Maybe, things have changed. I don't know. Like, as I said, like, I've not lived there.
Right. Maybe you'll change them.
Yeah, true.
I'm so curious to see what happens and see what you do with this whole transition.
Yeah, me too.
What is your greatest hope and your ambition?
My hope and ambition related to work and life is to actually be able to like explore in all different art forms. It doesn't have to be like, limited to, oh, this is only something that you can do or this is what you should do. And I wish not to be ever in that mold of any kind. I really hope I can live that way. I want to keep working. I want to work the same way that I'm working right now, but on like bigger budgets, obviously. And like I want to direct more. I think I've had, slowly getting towards directing and kind of, I've directed shots and stuff in documentary before, but it's been like almost 3 years since I've directed anything. And I'm finally coming to the point where I really need to do something that will like help me build up confidence in myself. Because I think I've always thought, like, I feel like I'm a little bit hard on myself, and I think a lot of women are as well. Like, it's very difficult to say that, oh, I'm a director, because sometimes it sounds like, even like talking about it makes me nervous,
It's hard to own it. Well,
yeah.
Do you ever feel like an imposter?
Yeah, like, it's difficult to like say certain things out loud, like, oh yes, I'm a director, because then you are immediately, but I have not done so and so thing,
right,
or I haven't proved myself yet. And I think then you start getting into this vicious circle of like, oh, I haven't directed anything, so that's not I'm a director anymore. But I feel like a lot of my colleagues who are sort of in the same place as I am are very comfortable, especially guys, saying that out loud.
Oh, for sure.
And for me, it's like so difficult to say that. And I was like, why is it so difficult?
Have you read that book, Feminist Fight Club?
No, I haven't.
The greatest gem out of that book is carry yourself with the confidence of a mediocre white man.
Oh man, like it's but you get what I'm saying,
Oh,
right?
totally.
Like,
yeah.
So I'm really like, that's kind of like my immediate goal, is to like write something and direct something that can rebuild my confidence so that I can actually move on to wanting to direct bigger projects. Even if I just do a short now or something, so just like that break that.
Just do it.
Yeah,
Because isn't it funny, you feel like you have to have already done a spectacular job at the thing before you can even start doing the thing?
Yeah.
Like, I think that's kind of our perfectionism. You have to be better, and you can't even start until you already know you're great.
Yeah, and
We gotta knock that off.
Yeah, and I think it's like, I get it. It must be hard for every filmmaker. I'm not saying, like it's easy for everyone, but yeah, I think it's also like, because the specific art field is so much related to everybody else's judgments, because you're not successful or you're not good unless somebody else says you're good.
Right. And how do they know?
Yeah, so it's like they have to like your film, or they have to like what you did. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what you do.
But you can't go into it with the thought of, I have to make this so someone else likes it.
Yes, it's such a like, it's so stressful.
It's scary.
It's scary and stressful, but then I'm trying to look at it in a way where like, hey, what is the story and character that I want to explore, and I can enjoy this process regardless of what the end product is. And if I can enjoy this journey in creating this project, then maybe the project's going to be good,
Yeah, because what's important to you, and
it's
then
the
people will
journey,
care
right?
about that.
Yeah, so I think like, as long as I can have a good journey and fun journey, that's what I'm kind of, that's the mindset I'm going with.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let's do projects that are fun, to like research, to talk to people, like, what do I not know about? What can I learn? So that's what I'm trying to focus on, instead of like, well, what do I know the best? And then that just kind of becomes mundane sometimes.
Well, you have to be excited about what you're doing and enjoy the journey, because it's so hard otherwise.
Yes. Otherwise, it becomes too much pressure, and like, I've been there where like, I had this script that I was doing, and I was so stressed out during the shoot, during the conversations that I was having with the actors. I was always like, well, I gave this direction, but maybe like I should have gone the other way. Then what happens is like when you have all these questions and you keep questioning yourself, then the project is not coherent anymore, you know? Me and my colleagues have talked about this, like, women write differently. Like, women's scripts are completely different, and they're a lot less single objective films. They are layers and layers of all different conflicts. And what I found hard is to convince somebody else who is fond of the typical narrative of like one person with one single problem.
Yeah.
That's not what I want to write. I have this one character.
Well, that's not life either.
Right. And that's exactly what I was telling somebody. Is like, what do I want at this point right now, this second? There are probably going to be 20 different things I want.
Yeah.
Always, you know? So I feel like, why are we writing characters with one goals?
Because someone 100 years ago decided that was the
story
linear
to
story.
go,
And
yeah.
everyone said, okay, yeah, that's how we tell stories. But there are a billion ways to tell stories. We've
exactly.
only begun scratching the
Yeah,
surface.
and I love that we have now the 3 films that were nominated: Florida Project, The Lady Bird, Call Me by Your Name. Then none of them have a single objective in it.
Yeah.
They're characters with complex problems and trying to have this and live a complex life. And I think I feel like slowly we're getting towards actually even understanding what human temperament is, and what, it's just even understanding yourself for that matter.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like at that point where like I'm just trying to like figure out what my style is and what I want to write. So
Your voice.
Yeah, my voice. Even like artistically, what is the narrative style that I would want to pick versus one versus the other, because there's so many different things to, like, different routes to go. But yeah, slowly get somewhere.
It's a lot.
And simplify in some way.
What advice do you have for young women just starting out?
I would say that like believe in yourself is very important, because I've learned it the hard way, because I've always kind of doubted myself. And I think women have a lot of self-doubt, and I still have it, and I still struggle with it. And I think once you can actually believe that, even, you don't have to always think that, oh, I'm perfect. But even if you can say that, well, this is my choice and I really want to do this, and then just stick to it, and regardless of who perceives what. And I think for me, that's kind of like been the most important thing, is to be able to, because I have like questioned myself too many times. So I'd rather have somebody like, just believe in yourself and just do it, Don't second guess it. Don't think like, oh, I need time, or, oh, I'll do it when this happens, because that when is probably never going to happen. So you just do it,
Now.
Yeah, it's always definitely now. And I think like still there's going to be still more time for like women to be accepted in the film, especially to be equal. I think we're getting there, but I think we're not there yet. So like I have, younger filmmakers, women especially, who are trying to get into the field, and they always they've asked me like, hey, what should I do, or what should I start with? I would definitely say that start working on sets as much as you can, no matter what position you are in, and like try to give 100% when you are there, regardless what job it is. What I feel happens is like sometimes if you say, oh, I'm gonna do this job, it's a PA job, but I'm not gonna really care about it. The moment you say that, everybody else is now gonna hire more like men PAs than women PAs. And that's
no job is beneath you.
Right. And that's not your like every job. Like for filmmaking, PAing is the entry job, right? And you can do anything else, of course. But like I think that if you don't give 100% to begin with, there is already a prejudice built in the system.
Right.
So yes, women have to prove that wrong. And that's why it is important to work hard, and it's important to give your best, and at the same time be confident and not feel that you are not important enough.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And best of luck with everything.
Thank you
and
so
keep
much.
in touch and let us know how you do and what happens.
Yes, definitely.
You've been listening to The Other 50%, a herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Prarthana Joshi for sharing her story. If you are in a position to offer her any help, please contact me and I will put you in touch. And special thanks to Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or Podbay, and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out in letters, for added features, bios of our guests, and the merch. Please go there right now and subscribe. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Other50% and Instagram at Other50% Podcast. Thanks for listening. See you next time.